The Oklahoma City Thunder get their first win of 2022 as SGA and the offense have an explosion in Brooklyn, beating the Brooklyn Nets B team, if you can even call them that, 130 to 109. Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and pretty much every net besides James Harden sits out, but it doesn't matter because SGA and the Thunder snap their losing streak and get their first win since the turn of the calendar year. We're going to recap it all on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. It's at RYLAN_STILES. You can follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod and even email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're going to break down the Thunder win over the Brooklyn Nets, who are very, very shorthanded. The Thunder get their first win of 2022. SGA pours in 33. Lou Dort has the best game of the season so far. The OKC offense was on fire tonight, and the Nets did not really show up. But we start the way we always do with our game overview. Vid Krejci was out on G League assignment. Pokusevski out on G League assignment. Isaiah Roby out in health and safety protocols, and Kenny Hustle out in health and safety protocols. That was the only injury report for the Thunder. For the Nets, though, it was a bit lengthier than it was for the Thunder. Nick Claxton, out. Joe Harris, out. Kevin Durant, out. Kyrie Irving, out. Patty Mills, out. LaMarcus Aldridge, out. For the Thunder, Derek Favors, Sam Alvon, Olivia Sarr, and Paul Watson Jr. also did not play, though those were all coaches' decisions. As far as Sam Alvon, who has not played recently, is going to kind of squeeze out of the rotation. Mark said before the game there's a reason for that, many reasons for that, but they continue to be invested in Theo Maledon long term. So we'll see when Maledon returns to the rotation or what's going on that front. The Thunder had not lost in Brooklyn since 2017. That streak continues. Again, looking for their first win in 2022. They got it tonight. The Thunder starters were SGA, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey, Aaron Wiggins, and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. The Nets start out with James Harden, Bruce Brown, DeAndre Bembry, Kessler Edwards, and Day'Ron Sharpe. How did the Thunder win this game? Well, they simply won this game by an offensive explosion, elite offense, and an offense that we've never seen before this season. The Thunder set a season high in points, 130, a season high in assists, 32, a season high in made three-pointers. They made 20 three-pointers today, and that's how they win 130 to 109. The Thunder got ahead by 23. Brooklyn's largest lead was 5. One time the lead changed hands. 2 times the game was tied. The Thunder never looked back despite losing the points in the paint, 56 to 48. They lost second chance points 30 to 14, but they won the fast break points 16 to 13. The Thunder were out rebounded 50 to 38. The Thunder shot 51% from the floor as a team. 51%. The Thunder shot 51% from the floor. Incredible. 44% from 3, 88% at the line, 88.9 really, so 89% from the line if you want to round up a little bit and give them some better favor there. Brooklyn shot 41% from the floor, 21% from 3, and 90% from the line. This is actually kind of a game that the Thunder used to having, where they shoot poorly from the floor, poorly from 3. I mean, dramatically bad from 3, but really good at the line. Brooklyn did that same thing, and it resulted in the opposite result for the Thunder, where they get a blowout win instead of a huge loss. Oklahoma City had 32 assists. Brooklyn had 16. The Thunder had 10 turnovers. Brooklyn had 12. The Thunder made 23s. Brooklyn made 7. Brooklyn only had 4 scores in double figures, 1 with 9 points. OKC had 5 scores in double figures, 1 with 9 points. James Harden had 26 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, 3 steals, 3 blocks in 26 minutes and 26 points. 31% from the floor, 27% from deep, and he was kind of the catalyst for Brooklyn, but they still fell in this game. Awesome game for the Thunder. What a way to end your losing streak. What a way to get your first win of the calendar year and some momentum heading back home to play Cleveland on Saturday. I think that with this game, you kind of saw what it's like whenever Dort's hitting his threes at a humongous clip, and SGA is getting to the rack, the way that he can. And then Josh Giddey fit in there perfectly. And we've spent the last month as Thunder fans freaking out about the fit of that trio. And tonight, it just shows how kind of fluky basketball is in a way, in the sense of if the shots go in, then you think that the trio is going to win 5 titles and it's the best thing ever. And Sam Presti is a mastermind, amazing GM and amazing team constructor. When the shots don't go in and they round and they kind of fall off the rim differently, and they don't fall, then all of a sudden it's a disaster. Trade SGA, and the Thunder are in peril, right? The thing is, you don't want to look too much into one game sample sizes against anybody, especially against a team that was resting the majority of their contributors. I think that this game is an interesting case study of what can you truly learn from it, what can you truly take away from it, and what really matters. And so we're going to try to do that today. But again, you don't want to overreact to just one game. But SGA had another all-star performance, and he's kind of building back up to where he was after that kind of 3 to 4 game cold streak. He had 21 points in the first half on 11 field goals, the highest in his career for points in the first half. He shot 64% from the floor in that first half, 61% for the entire game from the floor. He had 33 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, a steal, 2 blocks. He did have the 5 turnovers. The turnovers at times have been high for SGA. One was on a saved pass that really, I don't really count that as a turnover, but of course it is a turnover. One was an airmail pass where it looked like he thought Tre Mann would kind of be closer to the 3-point line than he was, and so that's kind of where he anticipated Tre Mann being, and he just wasn't there. He had one ripped away from him. He had one where he thought Wiggins was going to pick and pop. Instead, Wiggins picked and rolled, and so no one was there besides the defense. And then one was a deflection really, really high in the air that just went to Brooklyn. 9 for 10 from the line, 2 for 5 from 3, 11 for 18 from the floor for SGA. Jamal Crawford on that players-only broadcast. I don't know what the NBA is calling it, that League Pass broadcast with players, the way that the NFL is the Manning cast, and baseball starting one with Michael Kay and Alex Rodriguez. This one was with, I believe, Quentin Richardson, and then, of course, Jamal Crawford. And Crawford said that he will have his son watch SGA clips because SGA is so smooth. I think that with this game, you saw SGA hit that transition step back 3, and that is a highlight you want to pull from, and not just because it went down, but you want to pull from it as a teaching moment to the fan base who kind of gets upset with SGA taking these step backs and kind of questions kind of why he's doing it, because before we have not seen him do it. Again, number one, he's been working on this stuff for the past 2 off seasons. If you follow him on social media and you hear him talk about it, it's been a building point to get to where he's using them in game. But this is a very good highlight of why he's trying to add that to his game, because in this scenario, they're in transition, the ball gets hit ahead to SGA, the defense is reeling, and SGA, who's been killing the Nets at the rim all night long, the defense is on their heels and anticipating a drive, so they sag off him completely, and that step back generates a wide open 3 in transition, and he knocks it down. So being able to do that consistently makes the defense useless, because now you can't fall back to the rim and embrace a driving SGA at the rim who's in transition, and you also can't run him off the line, because if you do, he'll have an incredible finish off the rim, off the glass. So what do? It's why that SGA becoming a 3-level scorer and a 3-level bucket getter and somebody who can get this step back off is so dangerous, because at that point, the defense has no option. They already have limited options, but as they throw a box and one at you, which is what Steph Curry gets thrown at him if you're SGA, they were just reeling today. He had a lot of funky shots at the rim that I thought were incredible, just extremely high off the glass on those flip shot finger rolls, a great finish through contact. He used his dribble to split the defense at the top of the key. Top of the key, he just puts one dribble ahead, cuts through the defense that was kind of trying to come on him as a double team, gets the ball back, throws it off the glass, and it was up and in. Just loved it. Again, the defense was harassing him. The defense was trying box and one stuff you only see in the playoffs, stuff you only see against elite level players. And they tried against SGA, and SGA, oh ho hum, went for 33 points and barely played in the fourth quarter. The defense really wanted to stop SGA. They just couldn't. Even the Brooklyn crowd was wowed by SGA today. This was a all-star level performance for SGA. Now, will he get there this year? I still don't think so, obviously, but it just shows he's that caliber of player, and there's a lot more that goes into being an all-star than just being that caliber of player. But SGA is still that guy, and SGA is still your number one option, your number one offensive player, and your bucket getter of the future. And how great is it to have him locked up on a max contract deal with 0 opt-outs, folks? 0 opt-outs. You need to opt in, though, to betonline.ag. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all of the best sport wagering action of 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started. That code LOCKEDON gets you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit from football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right up to your favorite Vegas casino games. Do not wait. Take advantage of these amazing offers right now, available for the 2022 season. BetOnline is the fastest and best way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. BetOnline, your online sportbook experts. We are back on the Locked On Thunder Podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning, every single day. We are here for you talking Thunder basketball. For your next listen, go check out the Locked On Now podcast. What the Locked On Now podcast is, it's a nightly recap of every NBA game with a breakdown from our local experts. Listen to Locked On Now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Locked On NBA YouTube channel. So go check it out, because nobody can do it like we can, with breakdowns from everybody from every single game. You cannot get that anywhere else. We know it's impossible to watch every NBA game live, so this can give you a breakdown of each and every one of them in podcast form. Again, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere else your podcasters are at, plus YouTube on the Locked On NBA YouTube channel. We're in the same places, all free, all available 5 days a week. Subscribe for free on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere else you get your podcast from. Every single episode that we do is free here at the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Thunder Podcast. Now we're back, and what a game this was, huh? What a fantastic game from SGA. We've raved about him. He played an all-star level. There's not much else to say. I think it's so impressive that the Nets tried the boxing one on him in a random regular season game that the Nets clearly didn't really care about, because they rested their entire roster and they tried to find rest for them, and just a brutal stretch for the Nets. You got to give them credit for that. Brutal stretch for their schedule right now, so they had to rest at some point, and they picked this game, and they still really tried to harass SGA and try to get this win from him. But of course, the offensive explosion and the cushion that the offensive provide allowed the Thunder to win 130-109 over the Brooklyn quote-unquote Nets. Darius Bazley was very good off the bench. He deserves a ton of credit. 16 points, 5 rebounds, a block, 2 for 5 from 3, 6 for 9 from the floor. Did not miss a single non-3. He had 1 turnover, which was a tough rebound, and then he tried to bounce pass it through a pair of defenders to Josh Giddey, who had already relocated off the ball. And so it was just a weird turnover from him. He mentions he's getting more comfortable off the bench after the game. Got a strong finish over I believe, Blake Griffin. Dribble drive to the rim was even in his disposal today. A step back 3 late in the shot clock where he created space for the 3. So like it was an open 3, but you don't really love Darius Bazley shooting a step back 3. That's kind of the only shot that you could think of to go, okay, maybe don't do that, Bazley. It was an air ball. It looked awkward. But other than that, it's another really good game. It's another near perfect game. It's 3 in a row now of games where you're complimenting Darius Bazley. And if you follow this season, if you follow the last 2 seasons, that's a very rare feat on Thunder Twitter. And maybe he's turned the corner. And this is a conversation that's hard to have, because all you can simply do is wait. All you can do is sit around and see for yourself if he's turned the corner. But I've been saying all along, Bazley's really good at turning 1 bad game into 3. He's not very good at turning 1 good game into 5. And so far, he's built upon success 1, 2, 3. Can he do it again Saturday? And that's going to be the frustrating part for fans, is to keep hearing, can he do it again? Can he do it again? Can he do it again? And for Bazley himself. But that's kind of all you need. That's kind of all you have left to say about Bazley, because we know the talent's in there. We know he's a very versatile player. We know he's a very athletic player. We know he can do some things on the floor defensively that not a lot of players can do, especially off ball as a defender. But he's got to show it. He's got to show he can do that consistently, because that's the difference in the NBA. Mark said before the game, there's more NBA caliber players than there are uniforms. And the difference in hanging in this league for a very long time is consistency. Is how much can a team rely on you, depend on you, and count on you to do your job? What can the teams expect from you? It's why these contending teams are oftentimes taking these 10-day contracts, doing these hardship contracts for COVID, are taking these 10-day contracts on veterans because they know what they're going to get. They know what work ethic, they know what kind of responsibility and what kind of performance they're going to get from each and every player in a given night versus taking a shot on a guy who has more upside maybe, but might be a wild card. Might one night give you a double-double and the next night go 0 for 6 and not really be in the right spots on plays or know his assignment. So Baisley deserves a ton of props. He did really good today off the bench. But Lu Dort also deserves props. Lu Dort has been struggling offensively, and we went over his numbers and his shooting numbers yesterday, so go back and listen to that podcast. But today, he breaks out of that slump. 27 points in this game, 2 assists, a rebound, 6 for 10 from 3. 6 for 10 from 3. That is just impressive. 3 for 4 from the line, 9 for 17 from the floor in 33 minutes. Had a nice mid-range crossover pull-up that I thought was very impressive, and I'm wondering if he can kind of continue to add a mid-range shot to his game. Continues to knock down those corner threes, but again, only took 1 corner 3 today, but he went 1 for 1 in it. So we went over the disparity of corner 3 versus above the break 3 yesterday for Lu Dort, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But today he had the 3-ball falling, even though he was shooting them primarily from above the break, which of course he was 1 for 1 from the corner for 3. I think that Lu Dort did really good today. I mean, he did good defensively as always, had his shot going, and it's a make or miss league. And that's the kind of the cliche, but when Lu Dort hits his threes, this pairing, this trio, this team looks a lot better whenever Lu Dort does not hit his threes. Same thing for SJ getting going offensively. Same thing for Mike Muscala getting going offensively for any player on this team. Whenever the shots go in, all of a sudden you can see the vision, right? You can see the vision that Sam Presti has. When the shots don't go in, it's harder to see the vision just because it's simply a make or miss league. But the process is what's been there this entire season. Josh Giddey, another good game from him. 19 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds, a steal, 2 turnovers. He got 1 ripped away from him, and then the second one, he threw a 102-mile-per-hour fastball at Trey Mann that he just could not handle. 3 for 11 from 3. Not very good from 3, but still 3 for 11, 27%. And then 8 for 17 from the floor, 47% from the floor. I like Josh Giddey. I think that this is another good game from him. This was just simply a great game, and it was an outlier game. The Thunder are not going to score 130 points a ton, and so it's why that right now we can come on here and have our Skittles, right, as Mark would say, have our Skittles and ignore the broccoli on the plate. But how much do you take from this game versus how much do you celebrate from this game? I think that fans should celebrate this game for the next 24 hours. You should go back and clip the highlights and put them on Twitter. You should rave about this team on Twitter, vote for them in the All-Star game on Twitter. You should have a fun time with this game on social media right now. You should have a fun time with the performance that you saw and the highlights that you saw. But how much do you expect this to be duplicated, and how much do you expect from these players to meet this standard every game is a different question entirely. So it's interesting to see what kind of is real from this game, what kind of is a lack, what kind of is a virtue of the Nets' lack of effort and the Nets' lack of competent players on the floor. Trey Mann, though, deserves props, as well as Mamadi getting into this game as well. So we did see Mamadi in action after he signed that 10-day contract with the Thunder. We'll talk about that and Trey Mann all coming up on the Locked On Thunder Podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at Built Bar. Built Bar is a fantastic protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar. It's the new year, so that means New Year resolutions. And if yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include a Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. In fact, even better than a candy bar. Built Bar makes it easy to stick to your resolutions. It's made it easy so far for me to stick to my resolutions. If you want to eat healthy and not be bored by the third week, take on this Built Bar. It is going to be covered in 100% real chocolate on the outside. It is incredible with 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which is typically around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, a dozen net carbs. Folks, take it from me. I love Built Bar. And even today, I had a Built Bar for breakfast, and it carried me all the way until 5 p.m. That's how filling these protein bars are. You're going to want to check them out at Built.com. Use our code LOCK15, 15% off of your next order. They're great pre-workout, post-workout, or even as a meal replacement or a snack. Go check them out today with their amazing flavors such as coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, my personal favorite, or salted caramel and mint brownie, and even more. In fact, Built Bar is always cycling through new limited time only flavors, so go check them out at Built.com. Built.com, promo code LOCK15, 15% off your next order. LOCK15, 15% off your next order at Built.com. We are back on the Locked On Thunder Podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your teams every day. I'm your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. You can follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, lothunderpod@gmail.com. Thank you for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. And folks, you know what happens on Saturday and Sunday, don't you? It's the NFL playoffs. And I know that you're going to be sitting on the television and watching the NFL playoffs. And on Saturday, you're going to watch the playoffs and the Thunder play because you're that much of a big Thunder fan. And to make the NFL playoffs more interesting for you, you should be betting on them with our good friends over at BetOnline AG, but also our good friends over at Locked On Bets, because Locked On Bets is a daily podcast, a one-stop shop for your gambling needs. It's giving you picks every single day, and every single day you can win free money from our good friends with your boy Q and Lee Sterling, helping you out on all platforms for free on how to pick sport winners, and by virtue, giving you free money, because just like this podcast, all their podcasts is free and available on all platforms. So subscribe to both of us for free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all the other fun stuff that you listen to podcasts on. Let's continue rolling with this game recap, though, of this dominating win over the Brooklyn, quote-unquote, Nets. Tre Mann, though, was interesting tonight. 7 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, a block, 3 for 5 from the floor, 1 for 2 from deep. I think that with Tre Mann, again, it was like the process, right? It was the process of how he got these points. The stat sheet's nice. The dunks are nice. The lob finishes are great. But when you watch Tre Mann, I think of a tree. I know it's weird as a guard, right? You normally say in the trees for big men. But I think of a tree. With Tre Mann, he's the tree trunk. And then he can shoot out so many branches of how he's going to score the ball. He has scoring branches. He has, of course, the fancy step back that we all know and love. He has these high-flying posters and lob finishes. And today, he shows you another branch off that tree. And it was whenever he went into his step back, created the space for 3, the defense scrambles, runs him off the line, and he uses that to blow by him and get to the rim. And that was set up by his first bucket of the game being a step back 3. I think that Tre Mann's a scoring tree, and I think that Tre Mann, as he continues this season, continues his first couple of years in the league, will eventually become an incredible scoring threat in the NBA. And one of the better scorers this league has, because of how many ways he can score the basketball. He has nice touch around the rim. But he also has authority around the rim. And then we know his shooting numbers are going to improve. We know that his step back game is incredible at creating space for himself. And we know that he can create for others as well. I think Tre Mann's a true bucket getter. Now, what capacity will that be in? Will that be in a starter capacity, a bench capacity, 6 man of the year capacity? We'll see. If I had to bet right now, I'd say 6 man of the year type of player. But you love to see what Tre Mann's doing. Other notable mentions, Wiggins had 9 points tonight. Mike Muscala had 14 points tonight on 1 missed shot. The Thunder had a complete team effort tonight to beat the Nets. Bet of the day from BetOnline.ag was OKC +5. That hit. Moneyball pick, which is who leads the team in 3-pointers made, was SGA. Instead, Lou Dort took the crown with 6 made triples. The MVP of this game, very tough today. The MVP was a contemplation for me for about an hour. Do you go SGA? Do you go Lou Dort? Do you go Beasley off the bench? It's a great team effort. It was a huge blowout win. It was a win that you won't forget anytime soon. But the MVP of today's game is Lou Dort. Lou Dort breaking out that cold spell, catching fire from 3, going 6 for 10 from 3. He deserves MVP. He deserves MVP. He's going to get MVP. Congratulations to Lou Dort. So up next on the Locked On Thunder Future Forecast. Monday, we're going to recap Saturday's game against the Cavs. Tuesday, we're going to recap the Mavs game with Locked On Mavs. Wednesday, I'm going to give you my All-Star ballot and trade deadline preview. Thursday, Spurs recap. Friday, draft, prospect, stock watch. How fun is that? How fun is that? Subscribe for free across all platforms so you never miss an episode. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. And go check out Locked On NBA and our entire family of podcasts of the Locked On Podcast Network, because we're your team every single day. And until tomorrow or Monday, be good and be good to one